Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be taking you through some quick examples of algebra. In algebra, we'll be starting with directed numbers. So let's start writing. Let's start working. Got the pen working. So directed numbers. Directed numbers. So directed numbers, these are just your positive and negative numbers. And they're part of the number line. So if you look at your generic number line, you'd have a number line. The center would be 0. Then as you go towards your right, as you go in this direction, things become positive. And as you go in the other direction, things become negative. So if we were to give just a few numbers, this would be 1, this would be 2, and this would be 3. And even here, we can also have some decimals. In between these two, we could have like something like 1.5. We could have something like 2.5. And the same thing applies for the negative side. So the first number, we could have -1, -2, -3. And these numbers keep on increasing until you reach infinity. So even on the negative scale, you still have some decimals. You can have a -0.5 here, or a 0.2 or 0.1, and anything even smaller than that. So these are our directed numbers. So now, dealing with directed numbers, there are a few rules that I would want you to know. Some rules that you need to know when you are adding or subtracting. Directed numbers. So if you have a positive multiplying another positive, what you're going to get is another positive. And if you have a positive multiplying a negative, what you're going to get is a negative. And if you have a negative multiplying a positive, what you're going to get is a negative. And if you have a negative multiplying another negative, what you're going to get here is a positive. And I'm going to give you examples of these when we start doing our exercises. Then also, we could have a second one when you are dividing or multiplying. Because division is just multiplying by an inverse, but that's not really important at the moment. So if you have, let's say, just a negative being divided by another negative, you get a positive. If you have a positive being divided by a positive, you get another positive. And if you have a negative being divided by a positive number, you're going to get a negative. And if you have a positive being divided by a negative, you're going to get another negative. And these are going to be very important set of tiny rules that we're going to be dealing with in our work. So I think what you could do here, just for simplicity, let's get rid of this here. This becomes just division. Then also what we have here, let's just get rid of this. Let's have this as multiplication. Let's have this as multiplication. And division and multiplication could appear while we are adding or subtracting numbers or just dividing and multiplying. So I'm going to do a few examples to illustrate some of the things that I've been saying to you. So we're going to have example number 1. So example number 1, I mean, it's the first one. It has to be the easiest. So sorry for that. So let me write down our example number 1. So example number 1 is very simple. So it's going to be positive 7 being added to another positive 6. And from the rule that I just showed you, when you have a positive multiplying another positive, the rule that is here, you get another positive. So in essence, you could just write this as 7 plus 6. And this would simplify to become our 13. And you have solved the example 1. So now let's move on to example 2 and see how we'll be applying these rules that we've been learning here. So now we have negative 3 being added to negative 9. And from the set of rules that I've shown you earlier, a positive and a negative, they're supposed to give you what? That is a negative. So this becomes minus 3 minus 9. And this ultimately goes on to become negative 12. Because when you're dealing with negative numbers, you just move on the number line a certain number of steps, either to the right or to the left. But if you're adding, you move to the right, and if you're subtracting, you move to the left. So let's assume our negative 3 is here, negative 2 is here, negative 1 is here. Then this would be our 0, then this would be 1. And all the numbers going this side are positive. So what this means is that you're going to have to move from negative 3 9 times to your left. So I'm just using the number line to illustrate the idea just once. Then from here onwards, I'm not going to be using the number line. You could use the number line yourself if you want. So this is 10, negative 11, negative 12, negative 13 here, negative 14 there. So what this means is that from negative 3, you have to move 9 steps to the left. That is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So step number 9 is at negative 12. So that's how I got my negative 12. So now let's do example number 3. So this here is going to be example number 3 that we're going to be doing. So example number 3 is another very simple problem in directed numbers that we're going to be dealing with. You're going to be dealing with negative 2. Then you're going to be adding this to another negative number. Then you're going to be adding this to another negative number. So what we do, we always refer back to our rules. If it's a negative and a positive, it gives you a negative. Negative and positive gives you a negative. So what this essentially gives you is going to be negative 2 minus 3 minus 4. So you can do this stepwise. I'm going to do it in one step. So in one step, all of these are going to give me negative 9, but you can actually do it stepwise. This becomes negative 2 minus negative 3. That becomes negative 5 minus 4, which ultimately gives you negative 9. So it's up to you how you'd want to do it. So that's one way of doing it. So that was example number 3. So we're going to do a lot of examples because I believe that repetition does give you some good experience. So moving on now to example number 4. So example number 4 also is going to be easy, and it's going to make you a bit comfortable and familiar with the concept of directed numbers. So we're building the foundation, then from the foundation we're going to move on to even more complex problems. So I don't want to assume anything. So we're going to start at the very bottom and build up our way up. So that is going to be negative 19. That is the example 3. So we're going to be resolving that. Negative 19 minus 7. So remember, if you have a negative and a negative multiplying each other, they change to a positive. So this becomes negative 19 plus 7. And on the number line, if you're adding, it means you move to the right. And if you move 7 steps to the right from negative 19, you're going to land at negative 12. So that was our example number 4. So let's proceed to example number 5. Example number 5. So I mean, I may seem to be a bit very fast, but since I've done a recording for you, take your time, pause the video, rewind the video, and do whatever you need, because this video is going to be available to you. So don't be worried by the speed at which I'm moving. And if you have any questions, just post them in the comments. Ask me a question, and I'll get back to you. I'll try and comment and address most of your problems on the comment line. So we've done that example. Now we need to do example number 5. So we're going to do plenty of examples. Then I'm going to give you like 3 exercise questions for you to do. Then you can comment your answers at the end of the video. So now example number 5. So let's write this one down. So example number 5 is going to be positive 5 times 2 minus 7 times 2. So what we are going to do here first is to deal with the multiplication of the numbers that we have here. And we're going to start in the brackets, and also we could deal with the other one that is there. So 5 times 2, that just gives us 10. Then remember, negative times negative gives you a positive. Then whatever is inside the bracket, 7 times 2, that gives you 14. So this is going to be a very simple one. 24, that's your answer, 10 plus 14. So now proceeding to example number 6. I hope so far we are together and you are getting the gist of this whole directed number thing. So let's move on to another example, which is going to be negative 47 minus 16. So this is another simple example. So we still deal with these two. We add them if they're in this form. It becomes negative 47 plus 16. And you can easily do the math yourself. That's negative 31. So you have a calculator, just punch it inside your calculator if at all. You don't seem to get it, but for your paper one, I think you're going to be having to work without a calculator. So I'm going to do a lot of quick examples. Then, yeah, you're going to proceed with that. Now, example number 7 is going to be just slightly a notch up now. We are turning things up a bit. So that's plus 2 times negative 4. So when you multiply a positive and a negative, it gives you a negative. This positive here and this, this positive and the negative there, it gives you a negative. So we're going to have a negative, then 2 times 4, that becomes 8. So that's how simple that one was. Then we're going to have example number 8. Example number 8 is also a relatively simpler problem, and I think you're going to have it very easy. That's plus 6 divided by negative 2. So you can actually write this as plus 6 divided by minus 2. And from the rules that I taught you earlier, a positive divided by a negative, it's going to give you a negative. So 2 into 2, 1, Then 2 into 6, that is 3. So this becomes -3. Now let's move on to example number 9, which is also is supposed to be a walk in the park for you. -6 times -4. So if you multiply a negative and a negative, it's supposed to give you a positive. So it's going to be positive 6 times 4, that gives you 24. So you can just write this as 24. So example number 10, doing a lot of examples so that you could get how this directed number thing works, and from here onwards you'll be fine. So example number 10 is going to be -16 divided by +14. So this is going to be -16 divided by +14. So a negative divided by a positive, it still gives you another negative. So then 8 into 14 will give you 5. Then 8 into that will be 2. That will be 2 over 5. So you put a negative there. You keep it this way as a fraction, or you could make it a decimal, but I think for our purposes, let's keep it as a fraction. It's nicer that way. So then now our last example, example number 11, that's -6 times -1/2 times -30. So you can do this stepwise too. So what we're going to do, we're going to deal with these ones here first. So it's a negative multiplying a negative, it becomes a positive. So that becomes positive. Then 6 divided by 2, that's 3. So you're going to have +3 multiplying -13. So it's a positive and a negative, so it has to give you what? A negative. Then 3 times 3, that's 9. So that becomes 90. And that is our last example for today. So I'm going to give you some exercise questions for you to do. Exercise. So after you do the exercise, just comment, put it on the comment section. So the first problem for your exercise is a relatively simpler one. That's -7 plus -3. So find what that equates to. Then the second problem for your assignment is going to be -4 times -3. Find what that is equals to. Then the third problem for your assignment, it's going to be -3 squared. Then the fourth problem for your assignment is going to be -1/2 everything squared divided by -4. So do these problems, and once you've gotten them, just get back to me on the comment section. So yeah, that would be it. So now I need to pause the video.